Hey, what's up?
Hello.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm feeling fine. Feeling
Cool.
good.
That's good. So, you wanted to watch Zane vs. Wizrobe, right?
Yeah, that works.
Did you want to go over the thing you sent me before by any chance?
Sure. Let's do that first.
Okay.
So last time we were talking about mix-ups and reactions and kind of how to I guess structure like which options you're picking from.
Uh-huh.
So I picked a situation that I thought was interesting, but then realized later, after I'd kind of looked at it for a while, that it was like really open-ended. But if you
That's
click on
fair.
the video, the situation is we both like
Yeah, I
run
just
straight.
watched
Yeah,
the
yeah.
clip.
Okay,
I just
okay.
watched.
So I thought it was cool because it happens like twice in a row. So we both get like information and then make the same decision, kind of.
Uh-huh.
So I guess what else should I be like looking at in my analysis other than like because what I looked at was like spatially where can each character go, like they can turn around, they can stay in place, or they can move forward.
Uh-huh.
And then I looked at what I thought at those percents like their best options were in kind of a basic sense, and then I thought more about like what spacings do they want to do them kind of at.
Yeah.
Like for instance, I thought Marth's grab was the highest like risk to reward, but like so, and he wanted to do that like probably mostly overshooting, but then like for fair would probably be better in place because it beats like things jumping at you.
Uh-huh.
So I guess what would you make of this?
The biggest thing I would say is that based on reading your description and watching the clip, just don't forget that waiting and not doing attacks is also an option.
Right, yeah.
Just as long as you remember that, I think everything else you said is okay. I mean, it's kind of open-ended, like you said, so I don't have too much to say about
Right.
it. But as long as you know that, for example, like you said, Fox's best risk reward options were running, shine, grab, and drill. But to me, I would say Fox's best threats are running, shine, grab, and drill. But I wouldn't say those are his best risk reward options because his best options could include waiting,
Right.
dash dancing,
Okay,
full
okay.
jumping. So there's a big difference between your best risk reward and what you're threatening the opponent with.
So
And they
add
are,
that to just put that in the list too.
yeah, and they're related certainly, but I would be very careful not to try to overgeneralize in a sense.
Okay, of course.
Like, I mean, Melee is a very open game in the sense that there's a lot of things you can do, and like you can just wait, you know. And if you just wait and they're only doing those things, then sometimes you know you're safe, you're fine, or whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Just making sure we're on the same page.
Sure. So and then
When we
so
watch this
today
VOD, I'll be able to point stuff out, I think.
right. And I think it'd be helpful to kind of practice some analysis on like an advantaged like mix-up situation. You know, like when somebody's shielding and like the other person can do something else.
Uh-huh. Cool. Put a link up. Whenever you're ready, we can start watching.
Right on.
Did you watch any of the lessons I gave yesterday by any chance?
I did. I did. Whoever
Did you like
posted
it?
in the chat, I was like, "Wow, I forgot that this was happening. That's so cool." I thought it was really awesome. That is like
Awesome.
such
I'm
a
glad.
cool thing to
I
see.
actually taught like maybe 3 Marth players, so...
I didn't see any of those. I watched Falco and Fox, I think.
Okay. Well, there were Marth players, so you can always go back and check out the VODs.
Yeah, I think I will.
And also I played some Marth too, so there's that also.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah. I mean, it was mostly not focused because I was focusing on helping Kalindi.
Right. Oh, was it? Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, I was playing Marth first him, and I was kind of teaching him while I played. So I wasn't playing that great, but it was
About a
still
minute.
worth
That's
learning.
sweet.
They were ready. They just kind of finished getting ready right now.
Right.
Okay, cool.
Right.
So I'm starting.
Well, it kind of all
In literally years.
Looks like...
wouldn't have happened.
Okay. So do you want
I'm
to
gonna give
focus
some
on
credit
mix-ups
to
Alright, let's
in
go,
particular?
Wizrobe.
There needs to be some positivity
Um,
after all
Yes, I mean,
that time.
I definitely like to spend time talking about like mix-ups, but there's a lot more to like.
Of course.
I'd also like I picked Falcon as like Marth Falcon because I also like we haven't talked about Falcon yet, and I want ideas for that matchup.
Okay. Well, here. The first down tilt Zane gets is a great chance for us to stop.
Awesome.
Okay. So he lands this down tilt, right?
Right.
I have a pause right after the down tilt hits.
Right.
Okay, cool. So what can Marth do? Do you see how right now Marth has the option to immediately threaten Falcon?
Just like by running forward and grabbing.
Yeah, run forward, grab, just walking up and forward smashing him, short hopping forward with an aerial, just something. He can attack Falcon right now, and Falcon has to deal with it if Marth wants to do it, right?
Right.
Like, there's no way for Falcon to avoid this. Like, if Marth is intent on engaging, Falcon has to engage. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so this is a really advantageous mix-up.
Well, the reason it's advantageous is because Marth doesn't have to engage.
Right.
So we talked about this a bit, I think. Or maybe it wasn't with you, but I thought it was. Where just this concept of right now, let's say Marth doesn't want to engage at all in any mix-up. He has the option to just dash away. And if Wizrobe overcommits by being aggressive or like rolls or something, then Zane can just react to it. And if Wizrobe doesn't do that, then Zane can't be hit at least. There's no way for Wizzy to literally right after this down tilt force a hit immediately. Does that make sense?
So the first big part of the mix-up is Marth going to attack immediately, or is he going to like wait and see what Wizzy does?
Well, more importantly, I just want to talk about the fact that the reason this is... So in lots of mix-up situations, there are situations where both characters have like a good chance of hitting each other.
Okay.
But in this particular situation, there's also the other side to it, where one thing people strive for in Melee is to set up situations where you get to decide whether or not to engage.
Right.
And that's a position of power for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you get to choose whether or not you engage. So do you see why this situation is better for Marth than for Falcon?
Yeah.
Purely unrelated to the mix-up itself. Just the fact that Marth gets to choose whether or not to play a mix-up is powerful, because if Marth decides the mix-up is worth going for, he can go for some sort of mix-up. And if he decides that the mix-ups are not worth engaging for, he doesn't have to do that. But Falcon, no matter what, has to fall into the mix-up somehow. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
okay.
So that's an extremely important concept in Melee. Unrelated to... We haven't even talked about the mix-up itself yet. Just you getting to choose whether or not to engage in the mix-up is powerful.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so one reason that's powerful, for example, is because let's say you perfectly understood the risk-reward in the situation, then now that you get to choose whether or not to engage, you could theoretically always make the right decision. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Not the right decision in terms of landing a hit, but the right decision in terms of whether or not to engage.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So now that we've talked about that, let's talk about the actual mix-ups at play. So let's say Marth just runs forward and grabs immediately. How can Falcon beat that? So let's watch it again, and you kind of have to notice when Falcon lands versus when Marth gets out of lag.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So what do you think?
So, can you play it one more time?
Yep. Gonna get there.
Wait, hold on. I think I'm just like blind or something.
Is it playing right now? They're about to select Battlefield?
No, they're already playing.
Oh, okay. How about now?
Okay, now they're about to select Battlefield.
Oh, yeah, we just got desync.
Okay. I was very
Okay.
confused.
Oh, yeah, just tell me immediately.
Okay.
Because it's easy to fix once I know it. Okay, so he's gonna down tilt him.
Okay,
Okay.
cool. So he lands and he can get his shield up pretty much like before Marth can even get close to him. So if Marth decides to run grab, he could roll or spot dodge.
For sure.
He could also nair out a shield or just out of...
I think if Marth ran up and grabbed immediately, it would come out before Falcon's nair.
Okay.
Is that kind of reasonable looking at the situation?
Yeah.
Something you could do also is, since you have a YouTube link, you could watch it in YouTube, even frame by frame, and just pause it. So I'll do that now, for example. And we can just look at the timing of the situation, and then you can judge. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's what I was doing when I was looking at...
Yeah, that's a good idea. So watch it in slow-mo or go frame by frame. So I'm going to watch it in 0.25 speed right now just to make sure about how I view this timing. Yeah, I would say that it's kind of close, but if you grabbed... Your grab might lose to a nair, but I think your grab would win. But it's not totally clear to me, for what it's worth.
Okay.
But you kind of get the idea that, like, theoretically, you should be able to know exactly what Falcon could do to avoid the grab. So let's say his options to beat grab, let's say he can jump, like you said, like nair or full hop, which is what Wizzy does, okay?
Okay.
So let's say his only options to beat grab are jump, roll, spot dodge, and then maybe running off the stage. Right. Does that make sense? Like he could just dash left?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there's a couple things here. One, while running forward to go for the grab, you should still check what Falcon's doing.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So what if you ran forward for the grab, and then you saw Falcon already run off the stage? Then maybe you just wouldn't grab. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. As long as there's enough time.
If there's enough time, exactly. Which I don't know if that's true or not, but you get the idea at least, right?
And it might, like, if he jumps, I think that would give you more time to do it. Like, even if you... Well, if you grab... I guess, like, if you run up and grab and he jumps over you... Do you think you'd be able to, like, get out of your grab fast enough to, like, see?
Yeah, because he would have to full hop.
Right, so he'd have to... So you'd be able to react to jump, like, even if you grab.
Yeah, and then you'd be able to at least shield or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so we identified step one of the mix-up, right? Okay, so now, what could you do to beat roll and full hop, let's say? Because those are the main two options, right?
Okay. So... I guess you could just stay exactly where he is.
Okay, or you could dash back down forward or something, right? So then if Wizzy rolls, you get...
a grab.
You get a grab, exactly. If Wizzy full hops and you dash dance, then now you're in a new situation. So that's one reason, for example, dash dancing is good after that down tilt, because if Wizzy gives you something like a roll, then you get to reactively punish it. If he doesn't give you something like a roll, you're still in a good situation where, for example, if Wizzy's full hopping, you're in a new mix-up situation. And again, you can decide how to pressure his full hop. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So now let's say, how do you beat the immediate full hop here?
So you could just run forward and, like, jump fair, or you could forward smash.
Yep. No, I don't think forward smash would have enough time.
Oh, yeah, okay.
There are ranges where that would be true, but since Zane hit like
he's a little too far, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So if Wizzy was closer, I agree, immediate forward smash would beat full hop. Since he's at this range, I would say the only counter you have to immediate full hop would be dash forward, short hop, rising fair.
Mm-hmm.
And you could do that. But now let's think, so what if you do that fair and Wizrobe shields it? You see how he could maybe nair out of shield?
Mm-hmm.
Depending especially on the shield DI versus your exact tipper spacing, and then like... if he nairs out of shield, you can SDI out of a nair hit, So these things get complicated in terms of risk reward.
Right.
Because maybe you're really confident in SDIing the nair hit, so you go for the fair, he shields it, nairs you out of shield, and then you SDI to dodge the second nair hit, and then you keep fighting. And then it ends up not being that risky. But maybe it's a bad spacing, and you can't really SDI out, and he nairs you out of shield, and you get comboed really hard,
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing to consider. Also, did you think that maybe crouching could counter a dash forward short hop fair?
Yeah.
Because if he crouches, he can run forward grab or just short hop nair out of the crouch.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we've kind of
what beats crouch?
Say what?
So then you'd have to think, like, what would beat crouching then?
Well, don't forget, run up grab already beats that, because we already agreed that the only ways for him to avoid the run up grab... See, this is why I think of it this way. The only ways to avoid run up grab, we decided were roll and jump.
Mm-hmm.
Which maybe isn't 100% true. Sometimes there's a little bit of nuance. But for the simplicity's sake, do you see how more or less that's likely to be true in this situation?
Right.
Yeah. So when we talk about it like that, we don't even have to worry about the crouch because we already know the grab beats it. Because we already decided grab beats everything.
Okay, sure.
So if you want to, you could literally mix up dash chance, grab, and short hop rising fair, and theoretically, you would be covering every single possible option Wizzy does in this situation.
Not like full covering them, but like with your like options.
What could he do to avoid all three?
But I mean like you're covering it like by a guess. Like if you guess the wrong thing, then they get out.
Yeah, of course, but I'm saying between those three things.
Yeah, you cover them all.
There's nothing like there is no way Wizrub can guaranteed avoid one of all three of those things.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you are forcing a rock paper scissors situation. Like you know how in rock paper scissors it is literally impossible for someone to like. Well, I guess you could tie actually, but in this case, what I'm saying is like you have a guaranteed chance to at least beat something Wizzy does here.
Yes. Yeah.
You like that's 100% guaranteed that between those three options, as long as you mix them up well, sometimes you will get a hit. And there's no way he has any option in the entire game to avoid that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's how you need to think about mix-ups. I think it's actually very simple. Does that breakdown make sense?
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. So
cool.
And then
I think that it's really funny that Zane gave we got the very first situation already sets up a mix-up.
Yeah. so Zane sees Wizzy do the jump, or Zane tries to down tilt again.
Okay, so what does down tilt again even beat?
If he runs forward.
Yep.
But I don't know if he even had time to run forward.
I think, yeah, so it's hard to tell. So maybe that down tilt by Zane was really bad, actually, and it was more or less the same as standing still. Or it beat run forward, but maybe that's not that good risk-reward because it only beats run forward, and even if it hits, you're just back in the same mix-up situation, but with a bit more percent, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, even if you land the second down tilt, it's literally the same situation again. Maybe slightly better for you in terms of frames because you did a bit more damage or something. But, like, on the flip side, what if Wizzy just dash forward stomped right now? Zane would get fucked, right?
Right.
Or, like, what if Wizzy immediately Raptor boosted or waited and then ran up and grabbed? So Zane doing this down tilt is actually very bad risk-reward, in my opinion, because the reward is... you get the same situation with more percent. The likelihood of it hitting is it only actually counters one option. And then the risk is that if Wizzy happens to read you for that, then you're boned. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I would never down tilt a second time here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so... Okay. So what happens next?
What happens next is that Wizzy full hops and Zane gets the full jump fair him.
So he can just react to that.
I guess he reacted, but it's possible Wizrub could have maybe done something, so let's see. So one thing worth noting is that the down tilt kind of allows Zane to react, but what if instead of down tilting again, he just did dash back, dash forward? Do you see how that would give him the same exact position as whipping the second down tilt? So he could have just done down tilt, dash back, dash forward, and then still full jump fared Wizzy's full jump.
Yeah.
So one advantage to this maybe for Zane is that he's already set up in a position he's happy with, and moving maybe makes it harder to get that exact spacing you want again. But do you see how dashing back is kind of just a better version of down tilting again? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it covers more of Wizzy's options without like...
It covers more, yeah, exactly.
Leaving yourself as open.
The one thing to say is, maybe if Zane really thought Wizzy's only things he was going to do were dash forward or jump, then Zane's down tilt makes a lot of sense. Because even if, based on what we talked about, it's not a great option, if he really doesn't think Wizzy's going to do anything besides those things, then, it's kind of decent to go for. Does that make sense? So does that actually make sense to you, though?
Yeah.
So it's like, even though, risk reward wise, we kind of agree it's not that great, you could see how sometimes if you're really confident that they're only going to do one or two things, you can kind of change your option set to account for that.
Yeah.
Like, what if I told you Wizrobe dashes forward here 80% of the time, and then 20% of the time he full hops? Then down tilting here is way better than dashing back. It's just that, you don't need to do that because run up grab also beats the what's it called? Beats the dash forward.
Does it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So then, like I said, I personally would consider mixing up those three. And also, again, if you don't even think it's worth it to engage in a mix-up, you don't have to. You could just dash away and then reset to neutral. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So does the concept of
what if,
a mix-up make sense to you now?
More, yeah. What if, like... So, Wizzy can do, to avoid run-up grab, he can do, like, 3 things, right? And we can mix up between what we're doing...
To cover those things.
But why are we structuring it around run-up grab?
Because I just generically picked one option. I could have said, okay, what can Wizrobe do to beat short hop rising fair approach?
Uh-huh.
And then you would have seen that to beat short hop rising fair, he could shield, he could crouch, he could roll. So then I would ask you, okay, so how do you beat shield and crouch? And you would tell me run up grab. And then I would say, how do you beat roll? And then you would say dash back. And then we're back at the same thing.
So
like that, it's rock, paper, scissors, right? Like what if I told you, okay, so how do you beat rock? You'd be like, okay, well, paper. And I'm like, okay, well, what if you choose paper? What could they do? And you'd be like, well, scissors. And I'm like, okay, well, let's say they choose scissors. So what could you do instead? You pick rock. And I'd be like, okay, so you see how if you pick rock, paper, or scissors, you'll always beat them? Or have a chance to beat them? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter what we structure it around. It all leads back to the same thing if you apply the same logic to it.
Okay. I think I need to break... I think after we're done, I'm just going to stare at this and, like, keep, like, thinking about it.
I actually think it's somewhat simple. So if it doesn't make sense to you currently in the way you want to, let's keep talking about it. So what aspect of it isn't
I'm
clear
just thinking,
to you?
like...
Yeah, tell me what you're thinking.
So... we force him into the corner, and we have...
You down tilted him. The point is that you had enough frame advantage off the down tilt to attack him before he could really do much about it.
But, okay. So... okay, I think I get it now. I was just, like, hung up on one thing, and I think I get it. I was just thinking, like, what if he just... because we were kind of assuming that... okay, hold on. Let me think about this.
Okay, what if he does what? Just go ahead and say it.
What if he just, like, short hop knees? Just, like...
I think you would grab him.
You think... yeah, because that... okay, that's... okay. I was just missing the fact that, like, we have a significant amount of, like, frame advantage over him.
Yeah, so that's the key to this situation.
Right, that's what I was missing.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think does that make sense then? That's why I pointed that this situation was perfect for it. Because you have just enough advantage that, like, do you see how if Falcon tried to, like, dash, short hop, and start up his knee? You would just grab him before he even got that far, you know?
Okay.
And even if that wasn't exactly true in this situation, do you see how a situation could be very similar and it would be true?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't guarantee that the frames actually work out this way in this situation. We'd have to, like, test it in 20xx or something.
But it's pretty
But do you see if you had, like, let's say 2 more frames of advantage or something, it would be super obvious?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it was just a good example, even if this exact situation isn't 100% perfect.
Yeah.
I actually think it's pretty close, though.
I get
even
it.
if it's not literally perfect.
And
so does that make...
yeah, I get that. And then you said that, you know, if Zane, like... has seen that Wizzy's, like, most likely just going to run forward, then the down tilt becomes better, right?
Yeah, the down tilt becomes...
or like, one of his other options becomes better.
You know, let's say you play someone who chooses rock, like, 80% of the time, you know... well, like, it's kind of complicated because there are more than 3 options. Let's say there were, like, 5 options in rock, paper, scissors. And, there was a player who chose, but the options weren't equally good anymore. So, like, with rock, paper, scissors, they're all equally good. But let's say there was a 4th and 5th option. And the 5th option kind of wasn't that great, but there was a player who chose it, like, all the time. Then you could also do something that's maybe not that great, but helps you account for it, like, pretty safely. Does that make, like, so, like, you see how the second down tilt's not that big of a commitment?
Right.
It's just, in my mind, I don't like options like that, because you're now giving the opponent a chance to hard read you. So, like, if there was a player that just guessed that Zane was going to down tilt a second time here, Zane gives up an enormous advantage and puts himself in a situation where he's getting like destroyed for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get that.
So you give up the whole idea that you get to choose how worth it is to engage in the mix-up. Because once you've done this, you're giving them a chance to just hit you for free, but you're not even getting a high reward for it. Mm-hmm. So why would you do something low reward that gives you a chance to get a high reward on you?
Yeah, I see that.
Okay, cool.
So let's move on and see.
Keep watching, right?
Yeah. And I want to, just in general, like, if you can point out things that are key about, like, the matchup. So, like...
Have you seen my analysis on Marth Falcon?
No.
Okay, if that will save you time, because...
Sure.
I would rather just analyze this. And if you're willing to put in the time later, then you can just watch.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and I know you are, which is why I'm suggesting it. What the heck? How do I just see my videos?
I actually don't know. I was thinking about that the other day, because I have, like, a bunch of private videos and playlists and stuff. I couldn't find out how to get to them.
Dashboard, video manager? I thought... I'll just go to my channel, because I know it... Oh, yeah, you can go to my videos. Okay. That's actually really annoying. This is not good. Okay. So this is me talking about both the Five Gods tournament and Marth Falcon, but video URL.
For sure.
So you might have to skip around a bit. But here you go.
Thanks.
No problem. So I talk about Marth Falcon in that video.
Sure.
And you can kind of get my thoughts on it, and then we can talk about it later if you want.
Yeah, that sounds
good. Let's go ahead and analyze this so that we can make good use of our time.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yeah. So when he threw him into the corner, was he reacting on his, like, tech chase, or was that, like, a read?
The forward throw into regrab in the center?
It was a little while ago where he, like, tagged.
Wait. Is it...
yeah, this one. This one.
This one? Yeah, that's a reaction.
Okay. So he's just waiting, and then could he get, like, tech in place, or is that...
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
That's something you would have to practice, but yeah, that is a huge part of the matchup.
Okay.
You can tech Falcon very hard.
That's what I've been, like, working on that, I guess, like, not recently, but that's, like, something that I'd worked on in the past. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that, like,
yep.
I don't know, I guess I kind of already knew that.
Yeah, it's okay. Still fine to ask. So anyway, let's talk about so Wizrobe does the slide off DI. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, of course.
There are actually, we could talk about ways around it, but I don't know how.
What I would think about ways around it, you can up tilt, you can forward smash, which I thought about for a while and I realized isn't really that good. If you know that they're going for the slide off, then that means that they're going to tech roll left or right, which gives you time to waveland regrab.
Yep, those are all good ideas. There's actually something else you can do. If you delay your up air very, very long, like until the last frame of their tech roll, and then up air them, they can't slide off with the normal slide off DI.
Why is that?
I literally don't know. I discovered this, and I don't know why. It's just something about your ECB. So are you familiar with the term ECB?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so it's something about your ECB during the last frames of your tech roll. And depending on which way you're... First of all, I forget if it doesn't apply to every character, by the way.
I would think not. I would think it would probably be character specific.
It is character specific. I know for sure it works on Fox, Falco, and Sheik, though.
Interesting.
I'm not 100% sure it works on Falcon. I haven't tested it. But essentially, depending on which way Fox is facing, there's either like a 9-frame window or there's like a 1 or 2 frame window to hit this up air. But either way, if you just time it as late as possible, you'll hit the window, okay?
Okay, cool.
Because the window is right at the end, essentially. But essentially what happens is when he's tech rolling, something about his character model or his ECB interacts with the platform differently. So normally when they slide off, they ASDI is straight down with the C stick and DI off the platform with the control stick, right?
Yeah.
but something about their ECB and where they're positioned on the platform, it's like you're letting them tech all the way to the very edge. So when you up air them, they're actually off the platform completely at that point. So that when they ASDI down, they don't go back into the platform. Does that kind of make sense?
Oh, weird.
I don't know why that is, but does that make sense?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. So what they can do is instead of ASDIing straight down, they can ASDI down and slightly into the platform.
I think
so. It would be like
so
in
that's
this
what
case,
that video was about that somebody posted in the chat earlier, like a
I
couple
didn't
weeks
see it,
ago.
but yeah, sure.
I think somebody posted that exact thing.
Okay. But yeah, I actually discovered this, which is kind of cool.
That's crazy.
And then I talked to everyone about it and saw what people thought. But yeah, so he has to ASDI down and left in this case because he's tech rolling to the right.
So if you were to get that last frame of up air, like that latest
Then
possible up air,
most 90, like literally the entire world's population would not hit a slide off DI on that.
well, yeah, that, but then also the reaction would be that it would just be as if he was hit like in the air next to the platform.
Well, it would just be as if you got a normal up air he didn't slide off on.
Okay, yeah, sure.
It would just be the same as you up airing him on the platform normally.
Okay.
It looks identical. It just like he doesn't get the slide off and he's like, wait, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
So if they do this new ASDI though that I just told you about, it doesn't work until as high percent. So Wizrobe can slide. So like Fox and Falco can slide off DI to like 60 something, right, on up air.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do the delayed up air and they have to do the other ASDI,
The
because
distance
they're
is just further.
yeah, so they're not going straight down anymore on the ASDI.
Mm-hmm.
They're going down and in, so they lose some of the down effect. So it actually cuts off like 10% on how long they can slide off for.
Yeah, but then once again,
even with
realistically,
this
like
new
people
one-
aren't going to be doing that.
Yeah, also no one does this.
Yeah.
Literally, like, no one gets out of this. I guarantee you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of cool to note. But more importantly, so here, Zane gets a delayed fair on shield, right?
Okay.
Is it paused right now while he's
Is
fairing?
he? Yeah. Is he ascending or descending?
Descending.
Okay.
Here, let's watch it in real time once, just so you have an idea in your head. And again, I can't guarantee how well Zane timed this, but we're just going to assume he did like a pretty delayed fair that's pretty safe, okay? Is that fair?
Yeah.
So did you see it?
No, we're desynced.
Oh, okay. Here, down tilt, nair,
No.
grab. Are we
No.
desynced or no?
Yeah, we're still desynced.
Oh. How about now? Down tilt.
Down tilt nair.
Nair.
Okay, cool.
Cool. So I'm going to pause it right after he fairs him.
Okay,
Okay.
cool. I got it.
So where's it paused right now for you? Are they...
Wizzy is
rolling
starting
up?
his tech roll right, and Zane is dashing.
Well, it's not
left.
a tech roll. It's not
Oh,
a tech
his roll at a shield. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so I don't want to rewind it again, but just imagine that Zane has the fair on his shield right
Yeah.
now, okay? So if you do a perfectly delayed tipper fair, like literally the lowest one possible so that you land the frame after it touches their shield,
Mm-hmm.
I believe you are exactly +0 on shield, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to confirm this really fast just so I don't lie to you ever.
And was that a tipper fair on shield that he did, or was
No,
that
it was an inner
just a
hit
regular
fair.
one? Yeah.
But an inner hit fair would still be probably -1 on shield,
Yeah.
which is still very good, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But that is the most delayed one. And to get that, you would have to probably fast fall, like, right before you input the fair.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
probably have to short hop and then do fast fall into the fair. You could test this later if you were really curious. But the point is, you're only like, if you do it, let's say, I can actually check very easily in the YouTube video what frame advantage Zane was at.
Yeah.
that-
Okay.
Just because I can easily count the frames on this, which I will do real quick, just so that we can confirm
I'll
it.
do it too.
Okay. So the way we can test this is like, I know that if Zane touches the ground the frame after he's out of hit lag, then he's -1 on this, okay?
Uh-huh.
1, 2, 3,
It's 5.
4. So Zane actually touched the ground 4 frames later.
Mm-hmm.
So this fair was very likely shield grabbable.
So
So like the most delayed fair is -1. Okay?
So, yeah, and then if he did 4 frames later, wouldn't that still be... Oh, because
-5.
he can't do anything for
Yeah, he
like
doesn't
2
have a
frames.
shine.
Yeah, okay.
And dashing back, maybe if he was frame perfect on the dash back, actually. Because the first frame you would turn, and then the second frame you would start your dash.
Yeah,
Does that
okay.
make sense?
Yeah.
So it's actually possible, maybe, if Zane was literally frame perfect and it was at the exact right spacing, then that could have avoided a shield grab.
But
so that was
otherwise,
already...
he's able to get shield grabbed.
Yeah, so Zane did not do the best of fairs. So he tried to, but he just wasn't able to execute it. More likely, he hasn't practiced how to execute it properly.
Mm-hmm.
And I can give you recommendations on that if you want later.
Sure.
Just ask me. But so if you are curious, but yeah, so let's say, for discussion's sake, let's say Zane does a fair that's like -3 instead. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair? Just something a little easier.
Sure.
So pretend that was a -3 fair. So do you see how this is a clear mix-up situation again?
Yeah.
Or does that not
Uh,
seem clear to you? So to me, this is one of the most obvious cases where there is a mix-up going on.
Is it... Okay, can you explain why that is?
It's because no matter what Wizrobe does, Zane has a way to hit him for it.
Oh, because now he's -3.
Yeah, it's like you have enough advantage and you're this close to him. So for example, again, anytime there's only 1 or 2 ways to avoid something, if you can just hit the other 1 or 2 ways, then that means like you can force a mix-up if you want, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see that.
Okay. So for example, again, let's say, how about you break it down for me? So talk about the situation after the fair. You can either talk about it in terms of, I think the easiest way to talk about it is, well, first of all, do you see going into this situation, is it now obvious to you that no matter what Wizzy does, Zane could hit him?
Yeah, because his fastest option is like 4 frames, and that would come
4
out
frames.
like before his shield grab.
Oh, yeah. Like, Wizzy can roll, essentially, is what you're saying. Or what are you saying is 4 frames?
I'm just saying that, like, Zane can hit him.
Yeah, Zane can hit him. And no matter what Wizzy does to avoid it, Zane can do something else to still hit him. Right?
Okay, wait, hold on. I got confused again.
So I'm saying, like, again. So, okay,
what is Zane going to hit Wizzy with in this situation?
Well, so, like, to me, again, it's very obvious to me. So if it's not obvious to you, we need to make this clear. So,
Okay.
like, is it clear to you or not clear to you that Zane has a way to hit Wizzy no matter what Wizzy goes for? I'm not saying Zane can guarantee do it on reaction. I'm just saying that if Zane properly predicts what Wizzy will do, he can definitely hit Wizzy no matter what he goes for.
Okay, sure.
Is that clear to you or no?
Yes.
Like, can you think of anything at all that Wizzy could do that Zane just can't immediately hit him for? Like, with just one decision?
No. Okay.
There's just nothing, right?
Right.
So now let's say Zane couldn't hit him immediately, but maybe in 2 decisions from now Zane could hit him. Then that's not like an immediate mix-up anymore. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So that's why when you're in neutral, it's not like you're just always in a mix-up. Because let's say you're like, oh, well, I could always just read you in neutral. And I'm like, yeah, but like on your way to read me, there are generally like 2 to 3 decisions that have to be made, and the situations can change.
Yeah,
Does that make
okay.
Like, this situation cannot meaningfully change enough before Zane hits Wizzy.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
So do you see how, like, this situation is very similar to the down
Yeah,
tilt
it's the
situation?
same thing.
It's like the same thing, right?
Okay. Okay. Sure.
So now you break it down for me. So what can happen here?
Wizzy can either continue to hold shield, he can shield grab or spot dodge.
Yep.
He can roll away.
Yep.
He can jump.
Yep.
Which
An aerial out of shield.
yeah. I think that's it.
He could wave dash out of shield.
Yeah, he could wave dash out of shield. Okay.
Yep. Pretty much. So do you see that with that limited even though that's a lot of options, do you see how it's actually pretty easy for Zane to do it?
Yeah, because a lot of them overlap. Like if he jumps or if he spot dodges, it's like it's the same.
So let's talk about it. In my opinion, it's much easier to talk about it from the perspective of Zane's threats, like the person who has the option to force the mix-up. Because Zane doesn't have to try to hit Wizzy here, right?
Right.
But let's say Zane does try to hit Wizzy. What's the easiest way to hit Wizzy after a fair on shield?
Shield grab?
Well, not shield grab.
Or not shield grab. The fastest thing he has is like jab.
Well, yeah, but I would say just grab, not shield grab.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's not a shield grab. It's
Right.
grab. Yeah. So, let's say you're -3, okay?
Yeah.
Zane's -3, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's say you go for grab. What does that beat from Wizzy?
So he's -3. That beats if Wizzy, like, jumps, I guess.
Yeah, it definitely just beats a jump. I agree.
It beats if he continues to hold shield. It doesn't beat spot dodge.
Well, it's kind of weird because Falcon has such a bad spot dodge, right?
Does he?
Oh yeah, Falcon is a very, very bad spot dodge.
So what makes it bad?
How long it takes. So for reference, I will look this up. So for reference, Sheik has a very good spot dodge.
Mm-hmm.
So spot dodges are in tiers. So many characters have the same tier of spot dodge as Sheik, which is a total of 22 frames. So that's how fast the total is. And there are many characters with that spot dodge. Fox, Falco, Sheik, Link, Young Link, etc. There's actually many of them.
Mm-hmm.
For Captain Falcon, however, let me find this. This is annoying to scroll through, but... Okay, Captain Falcon's spot dodge is 32 frames long.
Oh, wow, okay.
So let's say, for example, he buffers a spot dodge, okay?
When does it come out? Or when does the invincibility start?
Frame 2 or 3 or something.
Right.
Yeah, but, so let's say it's 32 frames. So you are -3, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you grab. A grab has about 30 frames of lag, by the way, for reference. About half a second.
Okay.
So if you grabbed and you were -33, or -3, so do you see how that's a total of 33 frames where the opponent could have done something?
Yes.
Now, Falcon's spot dodge takes 32 frames. So that means Falcon would finish his spot dodge 1 frame before you finished your grab lag.
So you just
actually,
get
Falcon
net
would
2
be...
plus frames.
Say what?
You just get, like, 2
So
more
Falcon's
frames of
actually
advantage.
+1 at the end of all that. Does that make sense?
Right. So you
So
go from a
actually-
situation where you're -3 to a situation where you're -1.
So, yeah, exactly. But it's worth... Yeah, I agree. So essentially what ends up happening is that you are almost in the exact same situation, but you've gained 2 frames.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
So yeah, the spot dodge, I guess, beats the grab in this. So this is also an interesting thing, that sometimes there are ways to beat mix-ups, or a part of a mix-up, where you just end up in a mix-up again.
Right.
Okay? So let's talk about it again. So grab from Zane beats holding shield and jumping, let's say, right?
Yeah.
It's also possible that maybe Falcon's jump is fast enough to go above Marth's grab. I'm not actually positive on that statement.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, it's possible that maybe an immediate full jump would beat Zane's grab. But, well, for simplicity's sake, let's say Zane does a low enough fair that the full jump is too slow, right? So let's say the grab beats a jump, holding shield, and that's it, right?
Okay.
That's all it beats? Are we on the same page about that?
Yeah.
So what else could Wizzy do? So he could roll, he could spot dodge, and he could shield grab.
Mm-hmm.
So does Zane have a way to beat each of those things?
Yeah, and it starts with just him waiting, I would think.
You could call it a wait or you could call it a dash, right?
Yeah.
Because, so for example, let's say you want to beat shield grab. You could either dash through Falcon or you could dash away from him, and both of those would beat a shield grab. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and is there an advantage to dashing instead of just standing still?
What if he shield grabs you?
Okay, you're right.
Exactly. So you need to be able to dodge the grab, right? Because, so what are your options for beating shield grab? Well, the only one you really have after a fair like that is to dash.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Okay, so now you can dash to beat the grab. So let's say you dash left. and Falcon rolls away from you, and Falcon rolls right, you actually wouldn't be able to punish the roll anymore, right? But let's say you dashed right, you could punish the roll to the right, and then if Falcon actually rolled towards you, you could react and then still punish that roll. Does that make sense? Yeah, because he's kind of rolling towards you. So if you're on the left of him and you dash left and he rolls right, you're so far away that you can't react to it anymore. But if you're on the left of him and you dash to the right and he rolls left, he's still rolling kind of towards you. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay. I'm just assuming that you're going
Falcon's
fast.
rolls go different distances, which is worth noting. And most characters, so like for example, same thing with Marth. So like Marth's forward roll is very different than his back roll.
It's shorter, right?
I forget which one is which, but yeah, one of them is shorter. So essentially for Falcon, it's going to be much easier to cover the roll towards you in that case.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So now do you see how we've built a mix-up where if you fair and immediately grab, you beat him doing anything besides rolling and spot dodging.
But then your other option is dash through him. Yeah.
If you dash to the right, then you beat him doing all of those options. Now, there is one thing that if you dash to the right and he stomps out of shield, you might be able to reactively shield on time, but do you see how that puts you in an awkward situation? Because you might be shielding with your back to Falcon.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's one disadvantage to dashing through as opposed to dashing away. Because if you dash away and he stomps out of shield backwards, you could always run up and grab him afterward.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see that.
But then let's say he stomps towards you. Like, let's say you dash left and he stomps left. Then you would do dash left, dash right. But then when you saw the stomp, you could always shield it and then just shield grab him.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So maybe one advantage to dashing left as opposed to dashing right is that even though you give up the punish on the roll away, you're more safe versus a stomp out of shield.
Yeah. Okay.
So do you kind of see how we broke this down? So again, let's talk about how can Marth... So again, Marth doesn't have to go in a mix-up though. Because after this fair, Marth could just run to the left and then just keep running to the left. And no matter what Falcon does, he can't immediately hit Marth. Now let's say Falcon could hard read the dash away, wave dash out of shield to the left, and then go for a mix-up after that. Does that make sense?
Can you say that again?
So let's say Falcon thinks you're going to dash away. What he could actually do is wave dash out of shield forward towards you. And even though that doesn't let him hit you, do you see how
another mix-up?
He can force a mix-up if he wants to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay.
So if he wants to hard read your dash away, now Falcon can put you in a mix-up if he wants.
So is it always true that the person that has the choice whether to go for the mix-up or not is advantaged?
I would say that generally you're advantaged because you can always choose to not engage. And if they want to get an advantage out of that, the defender would have to hard read you doing that just to force another guessing situation.
Okay.
So I think the person... So there are times where both of you are in a mix-up. And then the advantage is just based on the risk-reward. But I would say there are situations where one person has the option to not engage in the mix-up. And that gives them an advantage of some sort.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's why fairing someone's shield at a delayed timing is actually a decent idea.
As long as, you've done the homework and you're prepared for what they can do.
Usually. Now, it is possible that there are situations that based on the percent and based on the character matchup and the stage position, that you're just not in that great a situation afterward. For example, let's say you fared a Fox's shield very delayed, but you were cornered and you were point blank to him. So now maybe if you dash through him, you get shined out of shield, but if you dash away, you have nowhere to dash. So even though you're forcing a mix-up, you don't have the option to just disengage.
It's just a bad mix-up that you shouldn't have tried to do.
Or maybe, well, it's not you shouldn't have tried to do. Maybe, since you're cornered, you had to do something, right?
Okay, yeah.
But I'm saying that sometimes you forcing a mix-up doesn't always make it good for you.
Yeah, I get
that. There
are
ways it could be bad for you. That's all I'm saying.
So can we go back to, just to rewind a little bit? If I'm trying to analyze a mix-up like this, when he hits on his shield, right?
Yep.
I start by looking at what Wizzy can do, or what Zane can do.
That's up to you. I would say that to me, I would just think about what Zane can do, because it's already obvious to me that nothing Wizzy can do can guarantee an escape. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay.
So
the real step one is look at the frames and see if it's a true mix-up.
Yeah, exactly. And to me, it's very intuitive because I already see that, if I get a late fair on someone's shield, I already know that's a mix-up.
Right.
Because I've already thought about this before. That's just a very common concept in all of fighting games, that like once you force an opponent to block, given that you have enough of an advantage, you can force something to happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So from now on, if you ever see someone, hit someone's shield really delayed, it's like you can know, okay, there's something going on here. Same thing if a fox ever nares your shield, there's always some sort of mix-up going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay.
Cool. So, but let's say you didn't know that, then yes, I would think of it from Wizzy's perspective. Count the frames or approximate how many frames there are. Even if it's not a hard number, you can kind of guesstimate or intuit the situation. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So then you do that, and then you're like, okay, maybe you do need to look at Wizzy's escape options first, just to give yourself an idea of whether or not it's actually a mix-up you can guaranteed force.
Okay, and so then at that point you go back and be like, okay,
and
here's
think
what
about Zanza, yeah, because it's much easier to think about it from the aggressor's point of view.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. That's helpful.
But then you still need to think about it in terms of all the things the defender can do. Because, let's say Wizzy stomps out of shield and you dash backwards or dash forwards, you still need to think about what you would do in that situation,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But now you understanding what the possible mix-ups are is relevant. So, for example, Wizrobe chose roll right, Zane chose dash left. So had Wizrobe shield grab, Zane would have punished it. So let's say Zane had dashed right, though, he would have been able to punish the Wizzy roll.
Yeah, okay.
But let's say Wizzy had just full hopped out of shield, maybe nothing would have happened. Let's say Wizzy chose nair out of shield, then maybe Zane doesn't get a guaranteed punish on it because based on how Wizzy drifts, it's maybe ambiguous to whiff punish the nair. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, there are all these layers to it. But let's say Wizzy tries to nair out of shield. That could just lose to Zane immediately grabbing or immediately up tilting. Make sense?
Mm-hmm. So in the video, what happens after he rolls away and Zane dashes the other way? So
they just go back to neutral.
They just go back to neutral then.
Yep. But if Zane had wanted to, he technically did have some frame advantage. So I'm going to pause it. So he's about to up air, fair. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So right now, though, Zane could force another mix-up if he wanted to. Because when Wizzy rolls, he's still at a slight disadvantage, right? Mm-hmm. The biggest thing is that they're so far apart that Zane can't immediately force a mix-up. Okay. But do you see how Wizzy's still at a frame disadvantage? Because he's in his roll lag while Zane's just dashing?
Yeah. Could Zane, just dash attack?
Yeah, Zane could just dash attack.
As a mix-up.
Run all the way in and just forward smash. Or just nair at Wizzy. Or run up and down tilt. So yeah, that's the other thing that... one thing in this matchup is Marth is often the one who has the choice whether or not to engage in a rock, paper, scissors type situation.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes it really annoying for Falcon, in my opinion, because if Marth wants to just guess, he can just go for it. And sometimes Falcon, that's why it's kind of a high variance matchup, because Marth has the option to just go for the guesses, and if he guesses right, Falcon often just instantly dies.
Okay. But then you said that it wasn't he can't force an immediate mix-up?
Yeah, because let's say you plan on dash attacking.
Okay.
Wizzy has plenty of time to let's say after that roll, Wizzy just full hops and shields on the platform. Or full hop wavelines on the side platform and shields.
And there's nothing that Marth could do to get there.
Literally nothing.
Yeah, okay,
But now
I see
Marth
that.
could choose, but Wizzy's giving up something by doing that because now you're shielding on a platform, Marth might short hop under you and then start pressuring you. And then you might give up positional advantage or you might lose the next situation after that,
Yeah.
So that's why Wizzy doesn't do that every single time,
Okay, I see that.
Okay, so does that all kind of make sense?
Yeah, that is beyond helpful.
I'm glad.
Okay.
Okay, so perfect example here. Again, let's talk about this mix-up. So nair, grab, are we synced?
Yeah.
Okay, so Zane actually fares his shield again. Let's watch for it.
Okay.
Wait,
that was up air. Okay, I was just thinking of when he hit his shield.
Yeah. Oh, actually, maybe it doesn't happen. Sorry, I might have misjudged. So let's talk about this. Okay, actually, yeah, we can talk about the mix-up after Wizzy drops through with the up air. So one thing worth noting, though, is that part of the mix-up is... the one thing we didn't talk about that's extremely important is after Zane down tilted Wizzy, it was like free to go for the mix-up, or like after he faired Wizzy's shield. But like, let's talk about when he faired Wizzy's shield. Do you see how Zane actually took a risk to put Wizzy in that mix-up situation?
Do you mean when he up-aired him right below the platform?
No, earlier when he faired his shield.
What was the question again?
Okay, so a big aspect of this is that you know how I talked about how Zane's actually at advantage in that mix-up?
Right.
Because he gets to choose whether or not to engage. And how, like, Marth grabbing Falcon there is, like, a huge reward for him, etc. So you see how that's advantage for Marth, right? But a big thing is that to get that advantage, it wasn't free. He took a big risk. So they also played a mix-up before that I forgot to talk about.
Okay.
And I think that's actually very important to talk about. So I'm going to watch this again.
Let's do that.
Okay, so down tilt, Nair,
No,
or sync.
we need to resync.
Okay. Down tilt, Nair.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So here, if Wizzy hadn't shielded, if he had just immediately nared, Marth would have lost this situation.
Yeah, okay.
Or if Wizzerub had crouched, maybe it could be another mix-up. Or Wizzy could dash dance, right? What if Wizzy dashed backwards versus dash forward? Then maybe that's not a guaranteed punish on the Marth fair, but maybe that puts you in a new mix-up situation, right? Because Marth is short-hopping to delay a fair, Falcon's dashing out of the way, but, you know, whiff punishing the fair is ambiguous because maybe Marth could drift differently or fast fall differently, or maybe he just wouldn't fair. Maybe he would double jump or waveland on the platform or waveland on the ground. So do you see how, like, these mix-ups are always like... So right now, Zane goes for a read on Wizzy holding shield. But he wants to kind of not read it with the grab. He wants to do it in a safer way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because what if Zane just ran up and grabbed? If Wizzerub dashed out of the way, then Wizzy just wins that mix-up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But now he goes for a fair. So now the fair immediately loses to a nair from Wizzy. But if Wizzy dashes back, then Zane doesn't immediately lose. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so this is kind of how you have to break all of this down. Does that all make...
Yeah, so the jump fair is safer than grabbing. And then
it's safer than grabbing versus a dash back from Wizzy.
Right, yeah.
But it's actually worse versus a shield, which is what Wizzy does, right? Because the grab just beats the shield.
Right.
But then the cool thing about the fair is that it puts you at advantage versus... It kind of puts you at advantage versus multiple options, but it doesn't actually beat any one thing.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So there's nothing that this fair actually beats. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Like, there's no way Wizzy's just going to stand there and get hit by fair. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the fair doesn't beat anything, but it puts you at advantage versus some things while leaving you safe versus other things. Make sense?
Yeah, and so his choice to go for the fair over the grab was based on trying to, like, avoid getting punished for whiffing the grab?
Yeah. Because maybe he wasn't... I've talked to you about confidence levels, right?
No.
Oh, okay. So there's this confidence level concept that I have, and it's essentially that you can... another factor in decision-making in Melee is how confident you are that something will happen. And this isn't like a theoretical task concept. This is just kind of like a human concept. Because, like, let's say you're 100% sure someone's going to do something. It's not, like, let's say Zane literally knows that Wizzy's going to shield. Obviously, that's not possible. But let's say theoretically you're somehow or hypothetically, you're somehow 100% sure Wizzy's going to shield.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see how grabbing isn't risky at all?
Yeah.
Let's say you're 95% sure Wizzy's going to shield. Grabbing's still a pretty darn good option, right?
Yes.
Let's say, though, Zane is only 20% sure Wizzy's going to shield. Grabbing is maybe a decent option because he still kind of thinks Wizzy might shield. But maybe, since he's not that confident, he doesn't want to commit with that. Because if he's wrong, he could lose that situation. So maybe he chooses something where he's still like, you know, I'm pretty sure there's a chance Wizzy's going to shield here. Let's say not 20, let's say like 50%, you know. He's kind of confident, but not that confident. So now he goes for a fair, which is pretty safe versus the shield and puts you in a good situation, but still leaves you safer potentially. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so he's giving up, like, the harder, like, risk. He's giving up, like, the riskier option. Or is it the riskier option? Is he actually...
Well, maybe not even the riskier option. Exactly. I would just maybe more put it as he's using how confident he is to guide his decision-making process.
Okay.
So another Marth here might have been more confident that Wizzy would shield, so they would just go for the grab. And then maybe even another Marth wouldn't think that Wizzy would shield at all, so he would neither grab nor fair. Maybe he would just go for something else completely.
What else does his fair cover other than shielding?
Nothing really. It just leaves you safe versus other things.
Okay.
Maybe it's kind of safe versus Wizzy crouches. If Wizzy immediately Raptor boosted, maybe it would have covered it. If Wizzy had double jumped instead of falling to the ground and shielding, then Zane would have just short hopped. So that's another thing. Zane, we could even go back a step. So do you see why Melee is so complicated now? Because first we talked about the mix-up on shield, but then we have to talk about the mix-up before it and how all the different ways that can play out. But then we have to talk about the situation before that also. Does that make sense? So watch what happens here. Wizzy does the slide off right here. I paused it. Do you see the slide off?
Yes.
Okay. What if Wizzy double jumped here? What if Wizzy fast fell to the ground and then just dashed at Marth and tried to grab him? What if Wizzy landed and then just immediately stomped in place? You know, there's all these different things Wizzy could do. And Wizzy doesn't actually fast fall and shield. But if Wizzy had, or he doesn't fast fall, but if Wizzy had gotten the fast fall, he would actually be at advantage after that slide off. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because Marth is still in his up air lag. Do you kind of see how Wizzy could have done a perfect fastball and then done something immediately?
Yeah.
So
Why
now
does
that
he
we
decide to shield in that situation?
probably because he wasn't confident enough in the slide off, and he didn't want to get like up tilted or something, you know.
So
Does
he's
that make
shielding to cover if he doesn't slide off?
No, he knows he's gonna slide off, but maybe he's not like he didn't have like perfect tech skill and did slide off, fast fall, immediately dash or something.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he wasn't as confident. Like he felt like he was pressured afterwards. Does that make sense?
Right. But was he actually, like, could Marth have actually hit him that early?
Maybe since Wizzy didn't fast fall, yeah. It's possible. Like, what if Zane did a perfectly fast fall up air and then immediately... So, like, you see how Zane drifted left?
Can you play it
On the
again?
up air? Here. So Zane actually drifts to the left on the up air.
We're desynced again.
No, he's up throwing now.
No, we're desynced.
Nair? Grab?
Yeah.
Okay. So watch when he up airs him. You see how he
He's
drifts
going left. Yeah.
So what if he hadn't drifted to the left and he landed right next to Wizzy?
Okay, I see that now.
Yeah, so that's possible, right? Now, if Wizzy still fast falls perfectly, I actually think Falcon's at advantage there.
I agree.
But also, what if Zane did the up air lower, and you have all these other things? I actually think the shield was very bad by Wizzy, by the way. So I'm not defending Wizzy's decision. I'm just explaining what it's likely Wizzy was thinking.
Okay,
know?
that's what I wanted to make sure. I was like, I don't
Oh
think that
no, it
shield
was a
is
terrible
good at
shield.
all.
But he just wasn't comfortable with the situation.
Okay.
So he just defaulted to shielding. So you'll see, even at very high level play, people do tons of things like this that aren't that good. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, let's wrap up here. Does that kind of explain some stuff for you?
Yeah.
And now I understand you're going to have to think about it more because there are so many layers and you're going to have to really ask yourself all these things. Like, was that even a good idea? What does Zane even get for this? What if Wizzy nared him here? So, right, like Zane is putting himself in a mix-up to get an advantaged mix-up. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So as opposed to going for a mix-up just to immediately get the hit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and the reason that he's doing that is because it's potentially safer.
It's potentially safer, and again, you have to take into account how confident he is.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
Because how confident you are, that's the human aspect of the game. That's why we're all different players, because how confident we are that something's going to happen guides our decision-making process. Because if we were all 100% confident that Wizzy would shield there, we would all grab.
Just grab, yeah.
Literally, all of us would, you know? So the only thing that's making a difference is how confident we are that it's going to happen. And, you know, maybe that's based on our past experiences or what we think is a good idea, what we think is a bad idea, you know, all of these other things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So, feel like that was a useful lesson?
Oh, yeah. Going through the process was very helpful.
It's probably one of the most important concepts in all of fighting games.
Yeah,
because
this is what I'm
how
trying
you
to
play
get
your
down.
neutral and how you use your frame advantage. Because now, again, so Zane used his frame advantage after the down tilt to down tilt again. But you could use your frame advantage differently. And when you're on the defensive, it's the same thing. So this should completely change the way you play Melee.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
this is real Melee. This is what fighting games actually come down to. And everyone who's not doing this isn't even playing the fighting game.
Ooh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because if you're not playing the mix-ups, how on earth are you going to beat Zane with Falcon if you aren't making your decisions based on understanding the mix-ups at play? You're kind of just doing stuff, you know?
Yeah,
Do you get what I mean?
I see that.
Yeah. So this is what fighting games are. Like this lesson literally should have taught you like what it means to actually play a fighting game.
Oh yeah.
And it's not just, again, that doesn't mean you just have to spam mix-ups. It means like you have to be aware how worth it is to put yourself in a situation to go for the mix-up. So for example, when Zane down tilted there, he knew that if the down tilt hit, he would be in a decent mix-up situation. What if when the down tilt hits, you're not even in a good mix-up situation? Then you have to ask yourself, why am I even down tilting here?
Exactly.
Right? So then you have to, so that's kind of how you have to start thinking about it.
Okay.
Okay,
well,
cool.
I have a lot to think about.
Yeah, you definitely do. And this is not something you're going to implement immediately. This is going to be something you improve at for the rest of your Melee career.
Of course.
But hopefully now you actually understand it and you can view Melee in this lens. Every time you watch Melee, it should make sense to you from that lens.
Awesome.
Or perspective, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, cool. Well, let's wrap up. Good stuff.
Cool.
Glad we talked about it. This video ended up being perfectly helpful, by the way. So you see how like any top players will be using these concepts.
Yeah.
They might not be using them well. For example, Wizzy shouldn't have shielded here. Zane shouldn't have done a second down tilt, you know, but they're still using them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
Well,
I'll see you next week. Or not next week. Maybe.
Our last lesson for February. Cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is next week. Our next lesson is same time next Sunday.
Right on. I'll see you then.
Okay, see you, dude.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.